Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and I wanted to talk to you about prioritizing your night fighting tools based on a budget. What do you get first and what gives you the most value for your money while you're saving up for that really big night vision purchase? And some of this is from personal experience, and of course throughout this process I've been helped out by some great companies, which we'll talk about later. But this is what I wanted to share with everybody who might be trying to figure out how to get into the night fighting game, but maybe doesn't have the financial resources to be able to do so. So hopefully this helps you. Now, the very first thing that I would get, and this is just something that I started out with and that I actually told a lot of people about back when I first got it, is a digital night vision device. In particular, this is a Stealth Cam night vision monocular. It's a 3x version, which will let you zoom from 1 to 3x. And these are really inexpensive. You can get these for about less than $100, let's say. And that's pretty wild. In order to be able to see in the dark for less than $100 is a pretty good start. What this is good for is observation, right? This is something that you would use at like a static location while you're looking to see if there's a threat coming or if there's something unknown out in the dark that you want to be able to identify. These can provide you with some of that data. Now, I do like these because they have some other capabilities and features as well, such as video recording, taking photos, which is really good for any type of reconnaissance and intelligence gathering, right? There are some downfalls though, which is why these aren't everybody's favorite night vision device, right? They're under $100 for a reason. First off, this is not going to be able to allow you to be mobile. This is not something you can mount to a helmet and move around with or anything like that. So don't even think about trying to use it for that purpose. The other thing is that because of the way these are designed, in order to see in the dark, they have a very strong IR output. And what that means is that it's going to be putting out infrared light, which will be easily seen by anyone else who's using night vision equipment. So you are broadcasting your location to anyone else who might have that level of technology. But if maybe you're worried about some type of animal or just a common criminal being on your property where they shouldn't be, maybe that's not as much of a concern. And in all reality, even though you might give away your position to someone else who's using night vision, you have to ask yourself the question, in a situation where I actually need this to see what kind of threat is coming my way, if they have night vision, they'll likely know where I am anyway, right? So I don't know if that broadcasting of your position is such a negative, but it is something to definitely keep in mind, because if that was to ever become a priority, you would know that this would be something unusable in that scenario. Other than that, it does the basic function of allowing you to see in the dark. So this is where I would start, because for under $100, you have the ability to see when you would otherwise not be able to. So what's next after that? Right? Because we want to be able to fight at night. We want to be able to see what threats are coming our way, and we want to be able to have a heads up if possible. And we know bad things happen at night. Especially based on some of the conflicts happening in the world right now, we know how important thermal technology is becoming. And the next thing I would buy is a thermal monocular. Now you have a couple of options, and in all honesty, I really like this Leupold LTO Tracker 2. It's really small, really compact, it's very lightweight, it easily integrates into my kit, and I can use it as a secondary or supplementary sighting source in the sense of seeing an object I wouldn't otherwise be able to see, and then I can use my other night vision equipment to actually identify it. But they don't make these anymore, which is really unfortunate because I actually like it quite a bit. But you can get something like this ATN OTS XLT. Now, what's nice about these monoculars is they have a lot of the same features of something like the Stealth Cam. You can record video, you can take photos, you have a zoom function. This one goes from 2x to 10x zoom, so you can really gather a lot of data. Now, obviously, thermals aren't necessarily going to let you see in the dark like true night vision devices. You can't use this as a mobility platform, right? You're not going to be able to use this to navigate through the woods in the extreme dark. That's just not what these are intended for. Much like the Stealth Cam, this is an observational device. This allows you to see things you would not otherwise be able to see, and then you can supplement it with other technology in order to use that data to your advantage. But obviously, thermal has a ton of advantages. It lets you see things that would otherwise be hidden. You can tell if a vehicle's been on or off recently. You can tell a lot by a thermal signature. So this thing is going to run you probably $500 or $600, depending on what model you go for. So we're going for sub $100 to begin with, up to $500 or $600. Now, some people might think that saving the money on this and moving right to analog night vision would be the way to go because, well, you're that much closer to it before you drop the money on this. But I would say it's still better to have this capability in that meantime than it would be to wait until after you have analog night vision devices, because this is so beneficial for finding things that are trying to hide from you, right? Now, it has limitations, of course. You can't see through buildings, you can't see through glass. You have to have line of sight. I mean, that's just is what it is. And of course, the cheaper you go, like this is one of the more entry-level thermal monoculars, the cheaper you go, the more pixelated the image is going to be, which makes the data you receive from that less usable. So that's why it's usually good to use it in tandem with other stuff, but it's still better to see something that you it's still better to see something that's trying to hide from you than not see it at all, right? So that's why thermal would be the next thing I would get. Okay, moving on from there. Now we are at analog night vision, okay? The first thing I would buy regarding night vision is a PVS-14, and this is an NL914C from Nightline Inc. And Nightline is actually the sponsor of this video, and if you go through them to purchase night vision equipment and you mention that Magic Prepper sent you, you'll get 15% off. So make sure you check out nightline-inc.com and they will hook you up. Now you have to call for pricing and all that kind of stuff, but they'll walk you through the entire process and they'll ensure you get exactly what it is you're looking for. So make sure you mention Magic Prepper, you'll get 15% off. And I also want to mention that Midway USA is the biggest supporter of the channel, and almost everything you see here on the table can be found through Midway USA as well. So keep that in mind in case you're trying to build a night fighting loadout. But a PVS-14 is the next thing on the list because it's an expandable platform. So you start out with just the PVS-14, right? And then you try to move on towards figuring out what you're going to use it for. But in the meantime, you have a device that is literally handheld. You can just hold it in your hand and you can see in the dark better than with anything else you could possibly imagine. These things are superpowers. And this particular one, the NL914C, it's a Gen 3 night vision device with L3 unfilmed white phosphor tube, so extremely clear quality when you look through this particular optic. And then it runs on a AA or a CR123 battery, so you have different options based on logistics and anything else that you might have with you. And it can run up to 75 hours on one singular battery while being very lightweight. So this is a really nice PVS-14. The issue with moving up to the PVS-14 platform is you're going to spend $2,000 to $3,000 minimum. And that's a lot of money, which is why you should probably get the other stuff first, so you have some form of capability and some way of defending yourself from anyone who might have some of this technology already, which, by the way, all the cartels and all of our foreign adversaries most definitely do. Now, you have the PVS-14. You can finally see in the dark. And now you have opened up all your options to different mounting and different forms of use, right? Use case scenarios for this particular piece of technology. So what does that mean? Well, you could start buying things like clip-on attachments if you want to throw it right on top of your rifle or whatever you want to do. But what I would do is move on towards getting that mobility function, which is really where night vision shines, which is why a lot of people that don't have night vision don't necessarily understand the value of it. This seems like it should do the job of being able to see in the dark, so why do I need to spend the money on this? Because this allows me to literally wear it in front of my face, walk around in the middle of the night with zero light, and see where I'm going and actually get through the terrain. Not to mention, shoot guns and actually hit the target as well. This will not allow you to do that. So, once you have one of these, you figure out what you want to do with mounting. And for me, that means, well, some sort of headwear. So a helmet is probably the best way to go. Now, I have an OpsCore skull mount right here. Now, a skull mount is actually particularly made just for mounting night vision devices. It's not made to protect your head. But what that compromises for is extreme amounts of adjustment for comfort, because you have adjustment knobs here, here, and on the very back. And it's very lightweight and minimalist, which also allows your head to breathe because it's not one solid piece. So because of that, it's actually really comfortable and easy to wear for a long period of time. But you could also just spend about the same money, because this is going to be a little over $500, right? You could spend the same amount of money and get a bump helmet from OpsCore and have something that could offer you at least some protection for your head. It might not protect you from any kind of frag or anything like that, but it would at least protect you from something falling out of a tree or who knows what else, right? Taking a slip and fall down the side of a mountain. These things happen, and protecting your head is generally a good idea. So personally, I might suggest going for a bump helmet to start, So you have the same price point, about $500. But if you're planning on using this stuff for anything related to firearms and tactics of that nature, maybe a little more protection would be a good idea, especially because they cost about the same. And then you can move up to a ballistic helmet later. But a ballistic helmet's going to run you a lot of money. They're generally around $1,500 to $2,000. And so I don't suggest doing that when we're trying to be budget savvy moving through this process. Get a way to mount the night vision to your head and then worry about the ballistic stuff later because, well, I'm not professionally in a situation where the idea of having frag or, I don't know, pistol rounds coming at my head is likely, let's just say. So we have the helmet part figured out, but then you still have to be able to mount your PVS-14 to it. So you're going to need a Wilcox G24 or similar type mounting system, which is what you see right here on the front. Most of these OpsCore helmets that we just talked about are going to have a shroud already built in, so you don't have to worry about that, but you're going to still need the mount itself. This is a Wilcox G24. They're very expensive, $500 or $600. They cost a lot. You get what you pay for. If you get a Chinese knockoff off Amazon, you're going to find out why it's so cheap at some point when it's the worst timing possible. So be aware of that. And then you're going to want a way to mount the PVS-14 to the mount itself. This is a pano bridge. Now you could use a J-arm mount as well, like the X14 from Noise Fighters. But I like the pano bridge even when running one singular PVS-14. And the reason for that is because it actually pans. So not only can I adjust this in and out of my eyesight, but I can also turn it left and right just a little bit in order to get just the right amount of pan to match my eyes. So I find that to be beneficial over running just a J-arm. Now these pano bridges aren't cheap either. $300 or $400. The J-arm itself is like $125. This whole process is really, really expensive, which is why I think you should get the PVS-14 before you get the helmet and the mounts and everything else. Because once you're done paying for the mounts and the helmet, you're going to be spending around $1,100 to $1,200 probably. And that's money you could have used to actually get the night vision device to begin with. And once you have this, you can at least hold it and use it. And it's still way more functional than this when it comes to being able to move around and actually get clarity and detail with the device. And then you get this other stuff to mount it to so you can actually start using it for what it was designed for. And then very lastly, because you got a PVS-14, especially if you get one from Nightline, if you get the pano bridge, which is what I would suggest because of that panning capability actually being really important to me at this point in time after using both types of mounts, well, now you can buy another PVS-14, attach it to your pano bridge after you get it collimated by the factory, which means they're going to ensure that both of these units will work in tandem together and make your eyes feel good about it. And then you can actually attach this to your mount, and now you have dual tubes. And that's the order that I would go in, and that's, at least from my experience so far, the most financially savvy way to do this when moving up the ladder of night fighting tools and giving yourself the most capability while having to remain on that budget. Starting out under $100, boom, I can see in the dark. Moving up to $500 or $600, now I can see you even if you're hiding from me in the dark. Then, we wish we still had these. Buying this and saying, I can see in the dark better than I ever could before in my entire life, and I can walk around while holding this in front of me if I need to, and get around much better than I could with this, which only goes up to 25 frames per second, which just doesn't cut it for that type of stuff. And then getting the helmet and everything else and being able to actually mount this to the helmet. And now you're in business. And you can go on a hike in the middle of the night. You can shoot guns, use laser aiming modules, all that good stuff. And this particular PVS-14, the NL914C, even has its own IR illuminator built in. It has a gain function that you can actually raise and lower the gain based on lighting conditions. Everything's built in. You're ready to go. You have this set up. And then when the time is right, you get your second if you want to run duals. But I'll be honest with you all, I'm actually kind of a big fan of running a singular monocular for weight and for ease of use and maintaining natural night vision in my off eye. But having a second one's still a good idea because if I need dual tubes, I got them, and I can always hand this off to somebody else if they don't have anything. So that's what I would do. Oh, not to mention I could clip this onto my rifle too if I need to and still have my mobility as well. That's just where I'm at with this. This is what I've learned, and I wanted to share it with you all. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think would be a better way to go in the sense of climbing the ladder of night fighting capability with the tools that I have right here in front of you, or if there's other things that I don't know about or haven't considered, please let me know so that way we can all learn from your experience as well. I hope this helps people. That's the whole goal here. I'm not trying to, I don't know, steer anybody wrong, and I'm not trying to lie about the fact that this is all very, very expensive stuff. And in all honesty, Nightline Inc. sent me these NL914Cs while I was in the process of saving up for night vision. And without their help, I don't know if I'd even have them right now, because this is that expensive. That's how much this stuff costs. But if you are wanting that capability, nothing else replaces it. This stuff is top tier night fighting equipment, and there's just nothing else that substitutes for it. So, anything else you need from me at all, go to magicprepper.com. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.